So I've never read a Leigh Bardugo book before, but she is a very popular author, so I've been seeing her books for years now. Of course, one of her famous works being the Six of Crows duology, which I always thought had pretty cool covers, I don't personally have much interest in ever reading these, but credit where it's due. They look sick. And so as I was walking through the bookstore the other day and I passed by them like normal, you would think I wouldn't have much reaction, because these are covers I've seen dozens of times. But instead, as I glanced over towards the teen section, my eyeballs are violated with this. Now, this is what we like to call in the business a literary war crime. Not only does it just seem like a very lazy way to get in on this modern minimalist trend, but the colors are just vomit-inducing, and I feel like they don't really match the tone of the story. So this is definitely a dud of a redesign, but why even redesign it when the original was fine? Pretty great, if you ask me. That is the question, right? Why do book redesigns happen? Well, there are a number of reasons for it. Sometimes the book is just old and it needs a fresh coat of paint. Sometimes the author is putting out a new book, so they want to redesign all the old books to look like the new book. You're saying, why don't they just make the new book look like the old book? Shut up, we're getting there. And sometimes, and which usually leads to the most literary war crimes, is when there is a new movie or show coming out that is adapting the book, so they make an addition to match with that. This has been constant in the publishing industry pretty much since the beginning. If you got a popular book, there are going to be multiple iterations over the years. Some are good, some are bad, but they're never going to be consistent. You never know what to expect. And if you're a collector like me, you have a very love-hate relationship with this practice. And it's something that's a little bit new to me, because of course I was a manga collector for years and years and years, and this isn't really something that happens there. If I go into the store and pick up the first volume of Bleach, it's pretty much the same first volume that came out 20 years ago. Sure, they've updated their logos, but pretty much everything else, the format, the size, it's the exact same. And that is the case with all 74 volumes of Bleach. There was never one moment where they just decided, hey, let's change it up, let's make something completely different. Because that would screw over all of the people who have been collecting it up to that point and who care about consistency. This is not an endorsement of Bleach, by the way, it's just the one I found on the shelf. Read something better. And sure, manga will come out with new editions all the time, but that original run is pretty much always consistent, and you can almost always count on it to remain consistent. I know there are logo changes, but those are so minor in the grand scheme of things. I feel like a lot of us really took manga consistency for granted. Minor issue, sure. But the fact that we still have this is pretty great. Now, when it comes to these buckos over here, it's really a roll of the dice whether or not things are going to go your way. Here we have A Song of Ice and Fire, one of my favorite series, in these really, really nice editions. And these have been its main editions for years now, since the last book, Dance of Dragons, came out, which was, of course, over 10 years ago. And, most people got into this series once the show started. That's when it really saw a boost in popularity, so most people have these volumes, and they're all nice, and they look pretty, and I like the colors. But if you're someone who had the misfortune of getting into the series before A Dance of Dragons came out, and say you picked them all up as they came out, your collection looks like this. For a recent example, take the Stormlight Archive. Very nice books, very nice artwork, very consistent, and the artwork has at least stayed the same since the series started. But if you have been collecting it as it's coming out, yours looks like this. Now, this is frustrating because I think for both of these series, the new style is definitely the better option. But if you have been collecting them up to a certain point, the only way for you to get now a consistent matching set, which a lot of collectors care about, is to then rebuy books that you have already owned. The Mistborn series has kind of been a mess. There's so many different versions and iterations and covers between Era 1 and Era 2, but there's never actually been a consistent way to own all 7 novels until 2023. Yes, you can now finally get this consistent matching set of all of the books, but most people already have them all. If I want a consistent matching Mistborn set, I gotta buy them again, and I don't want to do that. This is just such a frustrating constant when collecting novels, but it's really not the end of the world, especially in a lot of these instances. The redesigns are good, they are cool, and if I'm ever going to buy one of these books for someone, I have no problem getting the new shiny any edition. But it does really suck when you're like slowly collecting a series. Like maybe you only have 1 or 2 books, it's not really a priority right now. Like I have The Black Prism, which is a book I eventually want to read. I eventually want to get all the books. And just the other day, I saw it on the shelf and realized that it looks completely different now. So if I'm going to get the rest of this series at some point, I'm either going to have to track down the old versions, settle for inconsistent ones, or just rebuy this book again. That really sucks because it sort of like disincentivizes me from buying new books because I'm like, well, hold on, what if when I go to read more, they'll have completely rebranded it? And it's really hard to predict too. Like I think in the case of Lightbringer, it's when the author released a new book in the Night Angel series, so they just overhauled his entire bibliography. They did it recently with the Darker Shade of Magic trilogy too, where there was a new entry in that series, so they redid the whole thing. But that's not always the case though. You can never really tell when these things are gonna happen. Like the opposite happens too. Like in the realm of the Elderlings is currently getting like a brand new reprint, but they are sticking with the original paperbacks, which I love. Great, they look super nice. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But a lot of people tend to try to fix it anyway. And yes, it can sometimes work out. Like I don't think anyone wanted A Song of Ice and Fire in the style of The Feast for Crows first edition. Just comes with these annoyances. Like if you've been with this series or this author for so long, everything's been consistent, been nice, and then they just change it for no reason. Like it's Now I get in certain instances why they want to do this. Design trends are always changing. They say don't judge a book by its cover, but everyone does that. They want their books to pop out on the shelf. And the current trend right now has been, minimalism, solid colors. You see it on every romance book. A lot of fantasy books are adopting them. And, this is a style that I think can work really well. And there are a lot of examples where there's a lot of artistry put into them. But there are also instances where I think people are using this as an excuse to be lazy. Again, bringing up Six of Crows. Like this is a travesty. And to me, this really just reads like they are trying to be like the most obnoxious, the most basic cover out there, to just get more eyes on it. And like I can understand doing this for some books, but like the Six of Crows is so popular already, like who cares? And that's the thing, while I said a lot of these redesigns are good and, probably needed in certain aspects, some of them, like this new Six of Crows one, are just dreadful. We got a nice blend of the two extremes here with Rick Riordan books. The original Percy Jackson covers, classic, iconic, very, very nice. But then eventually they redid them, and honestly, these ones also look pretty nice. I don't know if I prefer them, but I can't really complain here, and of course they did wait until the series was long over, so it's not like they changed it up midway through or anything. Then of course the series did continue this year with Chalice of the Gods, so they redid them again to match the new style that Chalice of the Gods is going for. So again, the problem is if you've owned the series before 2023, there is no way to get consistent editions anymore unless you buy the new ones. But at the end of the day, I like all of these covers, so you would imagine they would do the same thing with the Heroes of Olympus. What the hell? What happened, man? How did this... Oh, this gotta be the worst downgrade I've ever seen in my life, man. Yeah, this ain't it. They really gotta do something about these quick. I'd rather see covers with like the original Percy Jackson character art. And then there's of course the infamous movie edition. Movie editions, I don't really know what there is to say. Like, I get it from a business perspective, a new movie comes out based on a book, people want to go out and read the book. Probably the best way to advertise is to just slap the movie poster on the book, but my god, you could pick better posters. So many of these are consistently terrible. Of course, the movie could be bad, it could be a bad adaptation and therefore doesn't really represent the book very well. Sometimes the poster just sucks. And of course, if it's part of a series, they never, make consistent movie editions for all of the books. It's always just the first one. Like right now you can go into the store and you can buy The Great Hunt. I think these are sometimes passable, like if it's a standalone book and they use like a poster from the adaptation that actually works. I think an example of this that I own would be like The Outsider, but it's very rare and I usually avoid these like the plague. One of the worst recent examples I think I've seen was Dune, like bro. Great book, great movie, but Jeez, man. So yeah, this is an interesting discussion, I think, because there's a lot of pros and cons to it. I definitely think it's great that old books, you know, keep getting new editions for new eyes. But at the same time, as a collector, I'm kind of worried that, like, one of these series that I'm collecting are one day just going to completely change, and I'll never be able to finish them in the original style. I do want to give a shout out, though, to some publishers who do get it. For example, The Wheel of Time, in its, you know, entire 25-year run, never changed the style of its hardcovers. In fact, the, you know, hardcovers you can still see in a store today still have that same consistent style. Even though it's a bit outdated, it definitely evokes the early 90s, but, you know, I respect him for it, and clearly, it didn't really affect the popularity of the series at all. And of course, the master of consistency, Diary of a Wimpy Kid. That shit's never changing. We're good there. If they ever do, like, a permanent redesign of those, the apocalypse better be happening. So yeah, just a mini rant, fun discussion I wanted to have. Let me know if there are some infamous examples that I haven't mentioned, if you've ever encountered problems like this collecting books, some of your favorite redesigns, some of your least favorite redesigns. And yeah, I'm gonna head off now. I gotta go buy the rest of The Expanse before it starts to look like this. Take care, and I will see you in the next video.